Hello and welcome to this Telin guide on registering and configuring E911 on a phone number across the Telin One Console and 3CX. As a quick overview, E911 allows us to register a physical address to a phone number, so when making an outbound call to 911 using this number, the operator is able to immediately match an address to the call. In this guide, I'll show you how to register an E911 address on the One Console and then create an emergency calling rule for this number on your 3CX management console. Starting off on your One Console, we're going to navigate to SIP, and then Regulatory Compliance, and now up to Add New Address. Starting from the top, we're going to configure the friendly name as an identifier of our choice for this address, then the business's legal name for the customer name. Now we can enter the address in the remaining fields. We can now press Validate. Now that we've validated our address, we can attach this to our phone number. For this, we will navigate to the SIP tab and then Phone Numbers, and now select View Number under the Actions column. Now we can enable emergency calling and select our newly validated address in the drop-down list. We can now press Review to see our updated monthly cost for this number, including the E911 charge, and now pressing Submit will finalize our changes. We've now successfully added this E911 address to our number, and we can now add our E911 rule on the 3CX side. Now that we're on our 3CX management console, I'm going to show you two possible configurations to allow for proper emergency calling. The first will be for when all users on the PBX are located at the same physical address, and the second will be for when there's two or more physical addresses across all your users. To start off, we're going to navigate to the Settings tab, and then to General. Now we'll want to press the Add button under the Emergency Numbers section. The name of this role won't make any difference to functionality and only serves to identify which address is associated with this 911 role. I'll call this Main Office. The number field will be 911, and we can leave the calls from extensions and calls from extensions groups blank. Now we'll want to open Route 1 to Telin, strip nothing, and leave prepend blank, and use the outbound caller ID we configured with our address in E164 formatting, which includes a +1 at the beginning. Now we can press OK, and then OK again at the top to save this role. We now have fully functioning emergency calling configured for this instance. We're now going to move on to a use case where we need multiple numbers configured for emergency calling, each with different addresses associated. For this demo, all of our users are across two physical locations. For this, we will need to validate and attach one address to one phone number per physical address. I've skipped past the address registrations in the One Console as this process is identical to what was previously shown. Now that we've registered an address on each of our phone numbers, we're going to navigate to the Users tab, and now to Groups, and now to Add. We're going to need to add a single group per address, each configured with the associated users for that physical location. For my group at Office A, I'll add every user that resides at Office A. And now we'll do the same for Office B. We can now go to Settings and General, and then down to Emergency Numbers, where we can add our two emergency calling rules. In this case, I'll use Office A as the name and 911 as the number. And we're going to attach the extension group we created for Office A. We can now open a route to Telin, strip nothing, and leave prepend blank, and for outbound caller ID, we will use the number with Office A's address attached. We're going to repeat this process for Office B using the Office B group and the outbound caller ID with Office B's address attached. We now have fully functioning emergency calling for a multi-address instance. Now, when any user calls an emergency number from the Office A or B groups, their associated address will be listed for the emergency operator. If you would like to test emergency calling, you can call our emergency test number at 933. Keep in mind, you will need to add a 3-digit outbound rule configured on your PBX to call this test number. This is not required for calling 911. This rule should be configured as shown, with the outbound caller ID attached that you wish to test emergency calling functionality for. And that concludes this walkthrough on configuring emergency calling. If you have any further questions for us, please feel free to contact us at 844-448-3546 or through email at sales@telin.com.